Hello everyone and welcome back in this Versa Networks video series. Today I will explain how to create security policies on an SD-WAN appliance based on Microsoft Active Directory user and groups. Before we get started, I strongly suggest you to watch my previous video regarding the VOS integration with Microsoft AD and a captive portal. The reason for that is because I'm going to reuse many of the concepts from this video without going into details, such as the creation of LDAP server profile, the creation of a captive portal, but also authentication rules and decryption rules. Also, in this video, I explain how to limit what a user can do across the network using its credentials. So I just want to make sure we're on the same page and that you don't miss anything. Okay, let's review what we are trying to achieve for a sec. On the left side of the screen, we have a laptop with an end user trying to get an access to the internet. Once the first HTTP request hit the VOS equipment, it will prompt the user with a captive portal, requesting a login and a password. Eventually, the user will provide those credentials, and the VOS equipment, using an LDAP connection, will verify if this guy is legitimate, but will also make sure that it is a member of a predefined group, such as sales or IT in the example. If everything is alright, then the traffic will get through and the user will get an access to the internet. Now, in terms of configuration, we have a bit of a challenge here because the Versa director does not have a direct access to the Active Directory. And as a consequence, it cannot fetch user group and user ID from it. If you remember the previous slide, branch 11 does have a direct LDAP connection to the directory, and it can easily get stuff like group name and username from it. The Versa director has a specific features for this use case, which is named LDAP proxy. In this situation, it will use one of the branch as a proxy to LDAP in the Active Directory, and at the end of the day, those user group will be available directly from the UI. We are now in the Versa Director UI, and again, I will not show you the entire LDAP setup, but just point you to a couple of very important settings. We are at the branch 11 configuration menu level in the connector submenu and LDAP section. So we did earlier create an LDAP server profile and a user group profile, which is named DC group. At this stage, you have four important settings. The first one is the username. It should be set with SAM account name, which is a well-known Microsoft Active Directory attribute. Group name should be set with name, group member with member of, and group object class with group. Once this is done, you can verify in CLI if the CPE or the VOS operating system is capable of fetching those attributes from the Microsoft Active Directory. So let's get to the CLI and do this verification by ourselves. I am now in the branch 11 terminal, and we're going to type the following command: show org service, followed by the name of the organization, which is Versa in my situation, followed by user identification, LDAP server data groups, and brief. What we can see here is very interesting actually. It's the list of every user group I have on my Active Directory. Some are very well known, such as domain user, domain admins, and some other are not. What's important here is that I'm 100% sure this branch can serve as an LDAP proxy. So let's get back to the director UI to complete the configuration. You can configure the LDAP proxy at the organization level. So let's get back to our organization. So the organization name is Versa for us. So you click on it, and then on the right side of the screen, you have this little appliance proxy button. So you can select which appliance you want to use as an LDAP proxy. So it's branch 11 in my situation. And you must also set the LDAP server profile, which is this in my case. Then you click on OK. And you can eventually verify that the configuration was done via this little View More button. And look like we are in business. Now that the proxy LDAP configuration is ready, let's review branch 11 security policies. Alright, so if you remember from my previous video, we have a couple of existing rules, such as the no auth captive port and no auth DNS to allow captive portal port and DNS traffic to get through without any authentication. And finally, we have the auth web rule. This one will allow authenticated users to get an access to the internet using the HTTP and HTTPS port. So I will now customize the auth web rules to make sure that not only a user must be authenticated to get an access to the internet, but it must also be part of a predefined Active Directory group. Let's edit the rule and go in the user group section. So at this stage, your user group profile must be set with your user group that you created earlier. And it is time to see if the LDAP proxy is doing the job. So when you click on this little plus button and start to type some random characters, you should see existing group from your Active Directory. And apparently it's just working fine. So for this exercise, I'm going to use two groups, the sales SEs and also the IT group, which means that authenticated users must be members of the sales SE or IT group to get an access to the internet. Now I can click on OK. And as you can see, my rule is now set with the IT and sales SE group. So it's time to see if the setup is working fine. Let's get in another window and test this. I am now in the demo environment with the user terminal on the right side and the branch 11 terminal on the left side. The first thing I'm going to verify is that we don't have any live user on branch 11 yet. So for this, I'm using the command show org service followed by the name of my organization, which is Versa, followed by user identification live users. And apparently we don't have anybody yet. So back in my user terminal, I will try to get an access to the Versa Network website. I automatically get redirected to the captive portal of branch 11. So I'm going to type my credentials, Sylvain, with my password. And apparently I can get through. So let's try to get access to this website. And so far so good. We've been able to get through with the captive portal authentication. Now let's verify the command output one more time in branch 11 terminal. We can see that the user Sylvain was authenticated behind the IP address 192.168.11.1, and more important, we can see that it is mapped to two different groups. So that's complete this video. Thanks for watching. Alright, this is now the end of it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and I will see you in the next one.